We're going to go ahead and get it kicked off here. Good afternoon, and thanks for joining our Career Connections webinar. My name is Brent Giangregorio, and I'll be your host today, along with Holly Gray. We're very excited to partner with University of South Florida, Sarasota Manatee, State College of Florida, and the Manatee Community Foundation for today's webinar on funding your education. Before we get started, a few housekeeping items. Today's session is being recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel within 48 hours. As well, we'll send a link to the recording along with the presentations to everyone who registered for today's session. Additionally, because this is a webinar, you won't see yourself or other participants, and all lines are muted. But you can ask questions using the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. As we move through the presentations, feel free to type your questions in the Q&A box. We really want to hear from you. And we've left about 10 minutes at the end of the session for questions. Okay, so we have a great lineup of speakers for us today. First, we'll hear from Holly Gray, College Counselor and Education Consultant at H&K Consulting. And then we're going to hear from Jasmine Urzua. She's a current student at Duquesne University. Then we're going to hear from Gabriella Jones, Assistant Director of Financial Aid and Student Success at University of South Florida, Sarasota Manatee. Then we'll hear from Simone Peterson, Community Investment Officer, Manatee Community Foundation. And then Jacqueline McNeil will wrap us up, Dean of Student Services at State College of Florida. Then we'll move on to Q&A, as I mentioned. After Q&A, if everyone could stay on for 1 extra minute for a survey that will pop up on your screen, we would really, really appreciate it. Your feedback is really important to us. We use these surveys to help us with future webinars and our programming. Before I turn this over to our presenters, I want to take a few minutes to tell you about the Women's Resource Center. The Women's Resource Center has been empowering women in Sarasota and Manatee County since 1979. We have 3 centers across both counties, one in Bradenton, one in Sarasota, and one in Venice. Additionally, we serve over 1,700 clients a year, delivering over 5,000 hours of programming. Our goal at the Women's Resource Center is to engage, educate, enrich, and empower women of all generations. And we really see ourselves as a place where women can call when they're not sure where to turn to for help. To do that, we offer our clients resource advising, mental health counseling, career services, educational workshops and programs, scholarships, as well as legal and financial consultation and education. All of this is offered at a low or no cost to our clients. Since this webinar is about careers, I'll talk a little bit more about our career services. Our career coaching program offers individual assistance in preparing for a successful job search. That can include career discovery, skills assessments, resume preparation, interviewing skills, networking techniques, and much more. We have career centers to conduct online job searches, work on job applications, update resumes. As well, we have one-on-one computer tutoring to help navigate online job sites, help uploading resumes, and help with computer basics in Microsoft Office applications. Additionally, we have 2 career closets, one in Bradenton and one in Sarasota, where we have free clothing and accessories for women who are attending job interviews or have just secured a job and need work attire. We also serve clients that may need clothing for any other reason, and currently our career closets are open Monday through Thursday from 11 to 3. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, we do really want to hear from you. So again, as we move through the presentations, go ahead and move to the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. You can type a question in there and we'll get to it at the end. And then one last plug as a reminder, the Career Connections is being recorded. You can watch the replay in case you missed any information. We'll send the replay via email in 24 to 48 hours to everyone who registered, and we'll include any flyers, we'll include these presentations and other materials from the presenters. And lastly, we want to hear from you. So as I mentioned, when the webinar ends, a survey is going to automatically pop up on your screen. And if you could just answer that survey and tell us how we can improve, we'd greatly appreciate it. Thanks so much for attending, and we hope you enjoyed this webinar. And now I'm going to turn it over to Holly.
Thanks, Brent. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. Brent, you can move to the next slide. As someone that's been in this space for decades, I hear repeatedly that people have a vision, a hope, a dream about their future, but it's really hard to take those first steps. And what we're here to tell you, and I hope this is the biggest takeaway you'll have from today, is that you deserve to create the life of your dreams. And together we can make it happen. So while you might not remember every detail that we're going to discuss in today's presentation, please remember that you just need to reach out to us and we will partner with you on that journey. Now, going back to those particulars, this journey towards a post-secondary credential does begin with discovering, uncovering what you're passionate about. And maybe some of you haven't had an opportunity to think about that, but it's a great place to begin. Think about what you're passionate about, what excites you, and what skills you have that you can share with the world. And then we can connect and working together that passion, those interests to a career need in the world. And once you've identified a path forward of what you want to work towards, it's about finding those academic programmings locally, online, that will give you that credential or that degree that you might need in order to have achieve that job. And then we'll complete applications for admission to those desired institutions that would work well for you in your life. And then there are those financial aid forms and scholarship applications. And that's really what we're going to specifically talk about today, because that seems to be the biggest obstacle preventing people from moving towards the life that they want, is how do I pay for this? How do I make this happen? And we're here to tell you that while there's federal funding, there's institutional funding, there's also local funding. And that's why we have members on this panel that represent all those levels of financial support. And then of course, once you've accepted a spot at an institution and you have the funding you need, it's about beginning that academic journey towards the life of your dreams. And it can happen step by step with the support of the community, and particularly with us. We're looking to partner with you. Now, it's one thing for those of us that work in this field to tell you about this journey, but it's another to hear it firsthand from someone in the midst of that journey. And we're going to hear from Jasmine now about where she began and where she is and where she hopes to go. Jasmine?
Hi, my name is Jasmine. I'm a first generation Mexican-American student. I'm a second year PA student at Duquesne University. So when I first started my journey for my academic career, I didn't know where to start. As a first generation student, I didn't know anything about financial aid. I didn't have anyone in my family who knew about it. And I was told from my mom, even though she really wanted me to go to school, she had no way to pay for it. So she said it was all up to me. And for me, that was a lot. That was a lot to take in. And it was a lot to learn about all these different terminologies of FAFSA and financial aid and what that all meant. But all I knew is that I really wanted to study medicine. And I first knew that I wanted to do nursing. I thought that was the easiest way that I could get my foot into the medical field, and that I could possibly get at least funding for that because it would only be 4 years at an undergraduate university. But when I met with Holly 3 years ago, she told me that I had the potential to do more because she saw what I could do based off my transcripts and based off just how motivated I was to serve other people. So after I met with her and other people from the community, I met with them multiple times to talk about ways that I could fund for this. And I started learning about it step by step. At first, it's very overwhelming, I have to say, but if you just stick to it, I believe that you can get where you want to be. So I'm now at Duquesne University. It's a private institution, and I'm at a direct admit physician assistant program. And it's all fully funded based on a cumulative of scholarships from Sarasota's local community foundation, and also from Pittsburgh, where I'm from, well, where I'm located right now, and also scholarships from my school. So I just want to say that it is possible. I know it's very overwhelming, and even if you don't know where to start, if these people are here for you for a reason, they're a resource, and I hope you guys use them and take as much advantage as you can.
Thank you, Jasmine. Perfectly stated. Jasmine's right. She got a package from Duquesne, and then we worked locally with the foundations to be able to fill that gap so that she would be fully funded. So good job, Jasmine. Thanks for sharing. Okay, our next guest will be Gabriella, the Assistant Director of Financial Aid at USF Sarasota Manatee. Gabriella?
Thank you, Holly. So today I'm going to speak a little bit about financial aid. This is just an overview, so it's not very detailed, but you can reach out to all of us regarding any information or additional information that you would like to have. So today I want to speak to you about the types of financial aid that are available to you to apply. And I'm going to tell you the difference because there's all types of financial aid. So let's start with the need-based. And by need-based, it means based on the FAFSA application and all the questions and how you answer the questions on the FAFSA, it determines your eligibility for need, okay? One of the biggest grants that the federal government offers is called the Federal Pell Grant. It is free money, so pay attention to that. Grants are free, or we call them gift money that does not have to be paid back. The Federal Pell Grant is actually good for 6 years or up to 6 years, or 600% is what they say. And it's, you can be awarded up to $6,895 if you have the eligibility for that amount. It does depend on your enrollment. There's half-time, full-time, and that's another thing that we want to emphasize, that you don't have to go to school full-time. You can actually go to school part-time. And actually, you know, you can, if you have to work and if you have to go to school, you can do both. And so it can be done. So the Federal Pell Grant is good for 6 years. So if you've already used it once or some other time, that will also be part of that. The federal government also offers the SEOG grant, which stands for Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant. It is a much smaller grant. And let me tell you the difference, because the Federal Pell Grant is an entitlement. If you qualify for it, you will get it. There's nothing about it, it's guaranteed. The SEOG grant is actually a grant that is limited amount of funding. So very few students get that, but you can get it as well. If you get a Pell Grant, you also will qualify for an SEOG grant if they still have the funding available. And then there's also the Florida Student Assistance Grant, is the FSAG. And basically, that's good for 4 years and it's awarded by the state. So let's say that you apply, that you live in Florida, you submit a FAFSA, and you qualify for the Pell Grant. You will also qualify for the FSAG grant, and you will also qualify for the USF grant. So institutionally, the USF grant offers you another opportunity to receive funds. So as you can see, there's a lot of grants and free money that are available to you via just submitting a FAFSA. But let's talk about also the Federal Work Study program. You can actually be awarded Federal Work Study so that you can go to school and study. So basically, when you, and work, I mean, when you go to school, you can receive an allotted amount to you. Let's say you get awarded $6,000 a year. You would have to work for that amount, but it's going to be called Federal Work Study. And you can work on campus and be on campus to work and study at the same time. So that's the Federal Work Study program. And then there's the loans. The loans do have to be paid back. So you want to start thinking about that. You think about, okay, I want grants, they're free. The loans you have to pay back. So only receive those if you really want them. If you want to accept them, you can, but you are not required to, okay? So I tell a lot of students, just make a budget and figure out how much money you're gonna need to pay for your tuition in your classes. If you don't need any more than your grant, then don't accept any other loans. So the maximum amount here, let's talk about the subsidized loan. The subsidized loan, the federal government pays the interest for you while you're in school. So if you have to take out a loan, this is the best loan for you, okay? It's the subsidized loan, and it goes up to $23,000, and it's for undergraduate students only. So you want to pay attention to that as well. You can go to the next slide. And this is just a continuation of the types of financial aid. So here we go with the non-need, meaning you don't have to have any need. You can be making $1 million and still receive an unsubsidized loan, okay? And so this is one of the things that the federal government guarantees. You can receive an unsub loan. The difference between this one and the subsidized is that you have to pay the interest on this one. The government does not subsidize this loan. So if you receive or choose to accept an unsub loan, you will be also responsible for paying the interest while you're in school. But they give you options to pay that, or you can just, they could add it to your principal. This is another loan, so you do have to pay it back. This is the maximum amount that you can get as an undergraduate student. And then we have the merit and need-based scholarships. A lot of these scholarships will require you to submit a FAFSA application because they want to see what your need is. Scholarships from universities, from the colleges, from the private sector, the community sector, and employers, they require that you have a FAFSA because they want to see what type of need you have to award you those need-based scholarships. You can go ahead to the next slide. Thank you. And this is the FAFSA application. This is when you go to FAFSA.gov, this is where you go. And what does FAFSA stand for? So it's basically free application for federal student aid, okay? So it starts with the word free, meaning you do not have to pay for it. So all you have to do is go to FAFSA.gov and submit the application online. And if you get stuck or anything, you call us and we will help you over the phone. We will help you if you come in. We will help you wherever you are. We do a lot of workshops for this where we actually go out into the community and we assist students and parents in filling out the FAFSA. So you want to go ahead and take advantage of that. You can go to the next slide. And to be able to submit a FAFSA online, you want to go ahead and also sign it electronically. So the first thing that you want to do is submit an FSA ID, okay? So when you go to studentaid.gov, this is another website that you want to get very familiar with because it provides you actually like a one-stop shop. You can apply for the FAFSA on here and you can apply for your FSA ID. So if you want to submit a FAFSA online and sign it electronically, you want to complete an FSA ID. And the FSA ID is just another password and ID that you will need to submit the FAFSA. That's all, okay? So pay attention to when you do submit an FSA ID, or create one, because it's going to ask you for your name, your date of birth, and your social security number. And it's also going to ask you for a telephone number and an email address. It's got to be your personal email address and your personal telephone number that you use when you create your FSA ID because it's all tied together. So you're an individual when you're submitting your FAFSA and you're creating an FSA ID with your social security number, the social security name that you have on the social security card, and the date of birth also has to match. So pay very close attention, but this creates a lot of technical issues for students when they go online to submit a FAFSA application. You do have to have an FSA ID and a password to complete your FAFSA application. You can go ahead to the next slide. And then when do you want to complete this FAFSA? Every year you have to submit a FAFSA. So pay attention to those things as well because it's always, there's funding, there's free, but you have to have a FAFSA on time. So it's first come, first serve. October 1st of every year, you have to resubmit a FAFSA, okay? So pay attention to that date. October 1st of every year, you want to go ahead and submit a FAFSA. And here's for 23-24, you want to go ahead and submit it now. If you want to start, let's say in the spring or in the summer, you want to go ahead and complete this, this FAFSA application. The good thing about also that you want to understand is that when you complete a FSA ID, you can also use your, what we call the data retrieval tool on the FAFSA application. Let's say I don't have a tax return, I don't know where it is. You can actually download your information from the IRS website into the FAFSA. So they are connected if you have an FSA ID created, and you can just transfer your tax information into the FAFSA and it'll be automatically done for you. So you don't need a tax return. However, if you're not able to use the DRT or data retrieval tool, just have a copy of your tax return with you, and anybody can help you fill it out. We can help you fill out your FAFSA with a copy of your tax return as well. Go ahead. I believe this is my last. Thank you. I appreciate it. If you have any questions, please reach out to me, reach out to any office of financial aid on any university. They are very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriella. Worth mentioning that the #1 impediment for people going to school or going back to school is in fact financial aid, but it all begins with the FAFSA. So everything that Gabriella just said is so important. Fill out the FAFSA, fill out the FAFSA, and remember to do it every single year, right? I think people do it the first year out of the gate and they forget that they have to complete it again. Simone, we're looking forward to hearing from you about scholarships.
All right, so good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to talk about that free or that gift money that's out there in the community. And if we can move on to, we can go past this slide as well. Looking at your sphere of influence, or like what things that you're a part of now, whether it's a church, whether, you know, the college that you're looking at going to, they have lots of scholarship opportunities. But looking at your church, looking at your employer, there's all these different opportunities to receive free money to fund your education. Additionally, any local service groups in the area, in Manatee County, we have our Rotary groups, Kiwanis, all those different organizations have a typical scholarship application deadline. So just looking at those things as well. Locally here, we do have 2 community foundations that do help students with scholarships. One of them is the Community Foundation of Sarasota County. And then I'll be talking about the Manatee Community Foundation in particular. With the Manatee Community Foundation, we do have 2 different scholarship programs. So we have our traditional, which is normally those high school students that are getting ready to graduate. That time period is from January 1st to March 30th where they apply. But we also have a vocational and kind of technical program for scholarships that is year round. And so what that means is that if you decide that you want to start enrolling in school, say in January, you just need to fill out an application with us. It's a rolling application. As long as we have funding, the grant application or the scholarship application is there for you to apply. So what does it look like when applying for a scholarship with MCF? If we can move to the next slide. Oh, before I get to that part, this particular scholarship for vocational and technical school, it only applies for the 3 local colleges around here. So if you're thinking about going to University of South Florida, and with that, that's any campus, whether it's Tampa, Sarasota, St. Pete, also Manatee Technical College, as well as State College of Florida, you can apply for that year-round scholarship. You receive up to $2,500 per year for that scholarship. So you can always come back depending on how long your program is. If you're going to University of South Florida for 4 years, reapply every year. And then this is something that's decided. We have a scholarship committee with different community members within Manatee County. They get together once a month. They review the applications, and it's not necessarily needs-based, but it's what they look at is the success rate, or if based on your application, how successful will you be in completing the application or completing your schooling? Because the worst thing we want to do is, you know, fund an education and then someone either stops just because, you know, they don't have the grit, or maybe they don't have, they're not ready to go back to school. Because there's a lot of things that lead up to you wanting to go back to school, and making sure you have the support system around you to be as successful as possible. So we can also help with that as well. Moving to the next slide. As far as the application goes, we think it's a very simple application. We just basically want to know who you are, what program you're going to. So that is completing the application. You will have filled out the FAFSA. So all we really need there is, when you have the FAFSA, you'll get a student aid report, I think about 2 weeks after you complete your FAFSA. We only just really want the first page that tells your expected family contribution. That's the only thing we're looking for, really. People submit the whole thing, that's fine, but I really just need that part. 1 letter of recommendation. It just can be from a family member, but someone from a church, employer, any of those types of things. And a personal statement. A personal statement is just kind of talking more about you, why you chose maybe the program you would like to participate in, your background, anything that can support your application. And then also lastly, your transcripts. Depending on, say for instance, if you just graduated high school and you didn't go back to college, we would just need your high school transcripts. But say maybe you started college and then you dropped off for a little bit, we would just need whatever your prior institution, whether it was high school or college, whichever was more recent. That's all we would need for the application. So this application can be filled out online. And I think the next slide is going to talk about, well, before I wrap up, I'll give you the link to sign up for that. But here's some application tips. I've been doing this for about 9 months now, and it blows my mind sometimes the applications that we get. So just to kind of help out and make your scholarship application process as easy as possible. One, read the application first, because many times people submit an application. It's like, oh no, you don't even qualify. So you did all this work to apply for a scholarship, and then you don't even qualify for it. So making sure you read the application and then follow any directions. And then also reach out to them after reading it and you say, hey, I still got questions on something. Please reach out before completing it, because there's some institutions where if you fill it out incompletely or if you fill it out wrong, they just toss your application and you're done. At least with Manatee Community Foundation, I will work with you. There's been people who have forgotten different things from the application. If you submit your application, for some reason the transcripts didn't come through, I'll call you or email you. That's why that last point on this on this slide, keep your contact information updated, is so important in case someone needs to reach back out to you, let you know about the status of your application or if they're missing something. Also remember first impressions. There have been some personal statements that I have received where the capitalization is terrible. It seems like no one had reviewed it beforehand. There was no signature. So just making sure that you have a tidy application, have someone else review it before you submit it, because the committee or whoever's looking at your application, they haven't met you in person yet. So this is the introduction to you. So you want to make sure you leave a good first impression. Also keep a copy of your application, and that's just to make it easier for you to apply for other scholarships. Many scholarship applications require the same exact thing. Your transcripts, some type of a personal statement. It's usually the same criteria usually. You may have to tweak your personal statement depending on what another scholarship may request, but at least you have a baseline or a template to start off with. So please save your application so you can tweak it for another application process. Also monitor your inbox and your spam and junk folders. Many times I've had great news. Hey, I have a scholarship. I want to give you $2,500. And I never hear back from the person. I would call them, I would email them once, twice, thrice, and I would never hear back from them. I'm like, well, I can't, I'm sitting on some cash for you. So again, make sure you monitor your inbox and your spam folders when you're applying for a scholarship, because they may be reaching out to you. And again, just making sure your contact information is up to date. If you're moving, reach back out to the scholarship organizer to say, hey, here's my new address, or here's my new phone number or email. And I think, yeah, so here's the website. So you go to manateecf.org, and at the top, there's going to be a drop down for students. And then you'll just select the vocational and technical button there, and then it'll lead you to the application. Again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to email me, contact me, call me. I'm here for you. We want to make sure that anyone who wants to pursue a higher education, that money and financials are not a barrier to that. So please reach out. And thank you so much for allowing me to be here today.
Thank you, Simone. Really appreciate it. And what's so exciting about what they do at the Manatee Community Foundation is this is ongoing all year, right? So regularly with four-year universities, there's a cycle of scholarships that you have to apply within a certain time. With this particular scholarship that Simone just explained to us, you can apply at any point in any given year, which is really wonderful. Jacqueline, welcome.
Thank you, Holly. Good afternoon, everyone. I am so happy to have this opportunity to speak to you today. Kudos to each one of you who has taken the time to join this webinar. This is a wonderful opportunity for you to learn about what going back to college or starting college would be like. You've heard an inspirational story from Jasmine. You've heard about some of the nuts and bolts of financing from Gabriella and Simone. And I'm going to talk to you about, well, why not you? Never too late. is going to college or going back to college the right thing for you? Next slide. So when you think about college students, the traditional picture that comes to mind is someone fresh out of high school who is heading off to college to do a lot of partying with a side of college studies, right? That's what we think about. But the facts are that 38% of undergraduate students are older than 25, 58% of college students work while enrolled in college, 26% are raising children, and only 13% of today's college students actually live on campus. So there are definitely some challenges to going to college, and there are definitely some rewards, and you're going to have to determine whether the rewards outweigh the challenges. So some of the things that we hear, it's been years since I took algebra. Let me tell you, if you took algebra last year, it's still tough to get into a math class, right? So that's not a barrier because most institutions have people who can help you with that. Here we have tutors that can help you with that math class that might be a real stumbling block for you. Most students are right out of college. I've already given you some statistics on that. If I return to college, will the credits that I already received count? Well, yeah, they can. Some of them can at least, but you can have your transcript evaluated and someone will let you know. Do I have the time? You know, Gabriella mentioned, you don't have to go to school full time. You can start part-time. You have, if you have children, you've got things that you have to take care of. You can just take your time and start. That's the biggest thing. What about my family? You'll see on a later slide that I tell you, make your family your champions. And technology has changed. Oh, has it changed? But we also have people who can help you with that. Next slide. So what are the rewards? Increased skills and knowledge, enhanced career opportunities, resilience, job stability. You know, when the pandemic hit us, a lot of service industry jobs had to lay off people because they were required to be face-to-face, and we didn't have that opportunity. But many of the jobs that require a college degree, those jobs were able to transition their people to remote learning for students and remote work for their employees. That's the opportunity to not lose a paycheck. That helped a lot of people. Role model for your children. I've heard a lot of students come in, particularly women, who've talked about, you know, I've raised my children. I want to be the role model for them. I want them to see that college is the right thing to do. That's a perfect time to come on back. Increase self-esteem. You know, as you start learning things and realize just how smart you really are, your self-esteem grows. And we love that. And financial independence. We don't want to forget about that. So I'm going to show you on the next slide that the difference in earnings potential for those who have less than a high school diploma versus those who have college degrees. And as you can see, the median usual weekly earnings for these different levels is significantly more the more degrees that you get. So and the unemployment rate goes down as you get more degrees. So next slide. So I know the thought of college can be a bit intimidating. However, college isn't as scary as you think. So what are the things that you need to do if you're talking about going to college? You want to set goals. And maybe those goals are that you want to change careers or you want to make more money. I want to be more financially stable for myself, for my family, whatever that thought may be. Ask for support. Make your family your champions. Ask for support about academics, the classrooms, the technology. We do have supports. Institutions have supports for that. Time management, you're already doing this. You know, if you're working, you're juggling your commitments for work and the other things that you want to do. If you're raising a family and you have kids in school, you are truly juggling things. So you're already doing some of that time management, but be realistic about your commitments. Understand that starting school may not mean that you're in 5 classes right away. Gradually work up to some things if necessary. Become a successful student, develop good study habits, seek guidance from your professors, and ask questions. Ask questions, can't tell you that enough. Take care of yourself. You're gonna work hard, so you need to rest and recharge. Make sure you take time for you and enjoy the experience. Celebrate the big wins. So you ace that test, you pass the class with an A. Those are big wins, but don't forget about the small wins. So that small win is, hey, I finished this paper before the due date. You know, or I figured out a concept that has really been bugging me. And why not you? So I wanted you to see different women who have celebrated graduating. And I want you to know that that could be you. So all of this is to say to you, no matter what institution you might choose, take the first step. Ask the questions and take the first step. And if you choose SCF, we can't wait to welcome you to campus. Thank you.
Jacqueline, thank you. What a panel. What a wonderfully inspirational, knowledgeable panel. Thank you all. But we want to hear your questions. We hope we've inspired something in you. We hope that your mind has been churning, whether it be the steps of the process, as I discussed in the beginning, or the particulars about scholarships or grants, or even Jasmine would love to share any other insight that she might have. So please, questions, put them in the chat box, and we want to address them now. And if you have just coming to you now, it's not too late. Put it in the chat box. Brent, what do we got?
Yeah, and it looks like we've already been able to answer some of the questions, which is great. Thank you for your help, Gabrielle and Simone. But I think maybe worth repeating for anyone that was watching the chat box. But the first question was, if you're planning on attending college in the fall of 2023, so next year, do you complete FAFSA for 23-24 or 22-23? And Gabriella was nice.
Jasmine, Gabriella, do you want to answer that out loud? It sounds like you answered it in the chat box, but in case someone doesn't know how to work the chat box.
Yes, absolutely. That's actually very confusing to a lot of students. If you're going to begin school in the fall of 23, you want to submit the 23-24 FAFSA application. Currently, we're serving the 22-23 FAFSA, which cover this fall, this spring coming up, and this summer. So yes, you would like to submit the 23-24 for next fall.
Gabriella, do you mind mentioning about the summer? I think people forget about doing the summer FAFSA if they want to take classes in the summer.
Absolutely. That is a very good question. A lot of students actually want to attend in the summer, and sometimes they have to attend in the summer because that's when they're admitted, and they want to submit the 22-23 FAFSA. So at the same time, they want to go ahead and submit the 23-24 as well. So you're working in between 2 years, and so you want to submit both because actually both applications are available and open during this time.
And it's exciting to know, if you haven't heard this before, that there is funding available in the summer, right? We always think it's either fall or spring semester. If you do that additional FAFSA for the summer, there's also money potentially available for the summer. Okay, Brent, what do we got?
Yeah, so it looks like another question that Simone was able to answer was directed towards MCF. Does submitting the one application put you in the running for all the scholarships listed on their website?
And sure. So with that, I mean, especially with our traditional January through March, we have maybe about 15, 16 different scholarships. So we say, hey, just put in your application based on what you provide us. We will say, okay, you qualify for maybe 2 or 3 of these scholarships, or maybe just one. We'll put you in the running for everything to see how you may, line up at the end when our scholarship committee reviews it. Same thing for our vocational technical schools as well.
So the only difference, just to reiterate, Simone, is the technical scholarship is you can apply anytime during the year, but the other scholarships must be within that window of time, starting in January. Okay, thank you. Brent?
Another great question here is, at what point do you apply for FAFSA? And that's in terms of before applying for school, before being accepted to school. So as it relates to also applying for college.
I'm going to start that, Gabriella, and then maybe I'll toss it off to you. So it's important to know that you apply to an institution, but because of the panel we have here, let's just say it's USF Sarasota. You apply to USF Sarasota. You also submit your FAFSA. Oftentimes with schools, which is not always the case, but oftentimes you will receive an acceptance. Yay, you got in, congratulations. It may be a week up to a month until you get the financial aid package. What usually happens is students will apply, their application will go to committee, a decision will be made about their acceptance. At that time, that committee sends out the congratulations, but then they also send a note to financial aid, say, hey, we've just accepted the student. Then usually the financial aid office will then review and determine what they're eligible for and what they will award that student. So it will come, there'll be some time, a bit of a lag time oftentimes between the acceptance and the receipt of a financial aid package. Gabriella, is there something else you want to say to that?
No, you're right. I think it really depends when you want to enter, which semester do you want to enter the university or college, so that you can apply early. Early is always the key to everything. And right now you should be applying for 23, 24. So if you're thinking about attending college in this summer or this coming fall of 23, you want to start submitting your FAFSA now. And let me just state that even if you're not admitted to a college, you can submit the FAFSA, because on the FAFSA, there's a question on there that asks you, which schools do you want to send this information to? And you put in the school code for those schools, and they will receive that information once you get accepted to the college or university.
And it's important to state that you will not receive any financial aid, scholarships, loans without completing a FAFSA. That is the key to it all. You must complete the FAFSA. Okay, next question.
Is there a limit to how many times one can apply for student aid grants, aka the USF Needs Grant, SCOG, FSAG?
Gabriella?
You will be considered for those grants every time that you submit a FAFSA application, because every year you have to meet the eligibility requirements. And that's why you have to resubmit every year the FAFSA, because they have to determine your eligibility. But if you qualify and the FAFSA is there and you meet the requirements and the funds are there, then you would be awarded, you would be considered for those grants, yes.
I think what's always sad to those of us in the profession is how much money is left on the table. It's a phrase we use, meaning there are more students eligible for funding than actually get it. So particularly when we're talking about free money, why not, right? I think oftentimes people be like, well, I'm working, I probably wouldn't qualify. That's not the case. It is, you have to put that FAFSA in and let the institution determine your eligibility.
And I think that's a great segue holding to the next question is, if you're denied FAFSA, what other options do you have that could help with tuition?
You're not necessarily denied FAFSA. Oftentimes, we didn't really talk about an EFC. An EFC is the estimated family contribution, or what the expectation of that institution or the government is about your ability or your family's ability to contribute to your education. So it's never that you're denied, it's more of a calculation of how much they think you could contribute and what that gap is. Let's say you do have an EFC of 0. It means that your family or you are not expected to contribute or able to contribute. Therefore, the cost of attendance will be filled in by the institution. If you have an EFC of 20,000, for example, that means you are expected, or the government feels as though you could come up with that amount of money, and then the difference would be matched by the institution. That's sort of a short version of it. It's more complicated than that, but just look at it as you're never denied. It's more of a calculation of what they think you could contribute, and therefore the institution will try to fill in the rest. Does anyone else want to jump in on that in case I wasn't perfectly clear?
You were. I think what happens is a lot of students don't see, I think the question is more like, okay, you know, am I going to be denied grants? Am I going to be denied free money? So that is based on the eligibility. And yes, it could be where some students may not qualify for a grant based on the amount of income the parents make.
Okay, next question.
And this is one Jacqueline answered as well, but struggling to find affordable housing, currently in school. Are there resources for that? And before I turn it over to you, Jacqueline, I would like to say, absolutely, you can always call the Women's Resource Center. We're here to help, and we'll help you navigate what resources are there to find affordable housing. We know that it's a struggle in our community right now. But I want to give Jacqueline an opportunity to speak to her answer as well.
Thank you, Brent. So at SCF, of course, we don't have housing that we use, but the same thing with us, as Brent said, we would be referring you to other resources that hopefully would be able to help you, but it is a problem in this community and something that needs to be addressed.
And this is a ripple effect, right? Because housing, of course, is necessary for our emotional and physical well-being, but it also impacts your ability to have Wi-Fi, right? You don't have a permanent place to live, to be able to do your work. So we know there's a ripple effect, but there are some subsidies available. We can refer you to them. Sometimes there is a waiting list, but I don't think you should lose hope that it can't be done. It is a challenge, but I think when you partner with an organization like the Women's Resource Center and you make your needs known, and if you went to Gabriella or Jacqueline or Simone, there's referral processes we all have, and we sort of have the know on what's going on in the community, so we can direct you to those that we feel are current, you have a better chance of getting into. So don't be afraid to ask for help, reach out, extend your hand to us, and we will reach out and hold your hand and help guide you where you need to be.
Yes, indeed. And another question along the same vein from a participant that was displaced by the hurricane is living in a hotel. I would also just encourage you to call the Women's Resource Center. We have a list of hurricane resources on our website, but we're happy to discuss those with you over the phone. There's a lot of funding out there to help for people displaced by Hurricane Ian. So again, please give us a call and speak to one of our resource advisors so we can help you sort of navigate all of those options.
Okay.
And then, yeah, Holly, there's a question here for you actually. Is there a cost to meet with you to receive your services or support from you?
That's a good question. And there's many ways we can answer that, but I think the long and short of it is reach out to the Women's Resource Center. We have career coaches, we have programming, and oftentimes when participants find a program they want to participate in, that program becomes a part of what I do. So it would be nice to have a one-off conversation, and I'm not opposed to that, but I don't know if it's going to be transformative for you. I think the most transformative path forward is to become a part of a program that may offer you an advocate, sort of an AKA mentor, meetings, regular meetings with me, potentially funding and connection to foundations so that you have the path forward. We really want to put together a comprehensive plan. And part of that is my infamous to-do list, right? We'll come up with things that you should do for next steps. So for the next month, these are things that you should work on. And then after that, we have an additional to-do list. Because as we move forward incrementally, as Jasmine said in the very beginning, it could be so overwhelming, but as you begin to take steps, it empowers you. And I think Jacqueline did a wonderful job stating that as you begin to feel success, you'll feel more and more empowered. And as I was listening to the conversation about housing, it goes two ways for the people I've been working with. Some who don't have their basic needs met. We know with Maslow's hierarchy, it's always been, we need our basic need met. We need food, we need housing, et cetera, in order to be able to achieve those higher end, more abstract goals like an education. So for some of you, you need to get yourself settled, and we're happy to help you do that at this moment. For those of you that maybe are in that situation and feeling sort of stymied by it all, maybe you need to feel empowered by accomplishing something. So getting in an application, even though your life might not be settled. This is different for everybody. For some people, they need their life in order before they can make a plan to move forward. Other people, you know what, I'm going to move forward, and we'll do that simultaneously. We want to talk to you about that. We want to see where you're at. We want to guide you for what's best for you. There's no one plan for everybody. So let's have a conversation. Yes, I'm happy to talk to you, but I want it to be within a structured system where you're going to feel really supported so that you can, this time, for some of you, for many women I've spoken to, they've tried 3 or 4 times in the past and they're feeling a bit defeated. We want this time to be the time that you are able to move forward and achieve that goal. So let yourself become part of the process that we have and programming that we have. So together as a village, look at all these amazing people on this panel. This is your village. We're here to support you. Yeah. It's a long-winded answer, but I hope I got to what you were asking, the person that wrote that question. Anything else, Brent?
Yeah, a couple more. I'm going to try to read between the lines in this question.
Okay.
If under any of the, I'm assuming they meant expensive programs, do the years of study need to be continuous? Or maybe programs like graduate or programs that have a higher cost, maybe if you're pursuing a degree or a doctorate.
Okay. So. I got it. Many people stop out, and stopping out means you're in an educational program and for whatever reason, there was such an obstacle that you faced, you could not continue. It could be emotional, it could be financial, it doesn't matter. It's called stopping out. Stopping out is hard for those of us in the industry because we know it's going to be hard for you to step back in. But to answer your question, you can step back in. It's never too late to step back in. That's why we have advisors on college campuses. They're going to want to look at your transcript. If you didn't go to a particular institution, maybe you live someplace else or you went someplace else, you get a copy of that transcript, you bring it with you to an advisor meeting. And it's very easy to schedule meetings at SCF or USF. You call and you say, I want to return to school. I have a copy of my transcript. I need to talk to someone. They will put you in touch with the person you need to meet with. Now, Jacqueline and Gabriella, I don't know if you do these remotely, if they're always in person. That I'd love the two of you to address. But my bottom line answer is it's never too late to come back. And they're going to want to review your transcript. And many of those credits will apply, if not all.
So Holly, we do in-person and virtual.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So, and even if your life is so busy, you might not be able to get to campus. It sounds like you can schedule something virtually and be able to have that conversation. Gabriella, same for you?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Wonderful. So take that first step, make the call, tell the person on the end of the phone, I need to talk to an academic advisor or a career counselor. Are there specific names they should use, Jacqueline and Gabriella, on your campuses?
We all understand I need to speak to an advisor. We actually call them coaches here. But if you call us and say, I need to speak to an advisor, that's who we're going to put you with.
Okay. Gabrielle, any special term at USF?
For us, I believe if you want a transcript evaluated, you would have to meet with an admissions advisor.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Okay. Thank you both. Brent?
This is a question for Simone. How long does it typically take for an applicant to find out if they're awarded a scholarship from MCF?
So they meet once a month. So I would probably say, depending on when you turn it in, you should know within like a month or so.
Fantastic.
That's awesome.
Another question here, is any or all financial aid contingent on grades in GPA?
So the short of that is yes. And if you have had a really bad semester the previous semester, it will affect what's upcoming in the future semester, and you may have to wait to get back into the cycle again. But Gabriella and Jacqueline, I'd love both of you to speak more in-depthly about that.
So let me talk about that because it's actually, the federal government has policies and laws. And one of it is that we have to keep up with your academics. And so the federal government has 3 things that the student must meet to keep progress in their academics. And one is you have to graduate within 180 credit hours. You have to keep a 67% of all the courses that you attempt, you have to complete 67% of them. And at USF, you have to keep a 2.0 GPA. Now, having said that, there's always options. Let's say students go through so much when they go through school. It's not just, life changes, things happen. You have 3 jobs, you become a parent. So we have a process called where you can petition We have a petition process where if something like that were to happen and your GPA is below something, or you're not meeting the 67%, or there's a petition process that you can go through to petition a committee to continue to receive financial aid, because you would be canceled if you didn't meet some of those requirements, or all of them.
And
Thank
for
you,
us, we have the same process. There's something called satisfactory academic progress that students must make each semester. We also have an appeal process, and once the student finds themselves having gone below the required GPA, sometimes it takes a while to get that back up. So in the meantime, you can appeal and be able to get a continued financial aid, only up to a certain point though. So you have to be very careful about that.
I feel there's a consistent theme here, right? Reach out to staff on campuses, reach out to the professionals, share your situation and find out what your options are. But don't in your own mind say, oh, I'm out, it's not possible. Make sure you get the information and find out all of the ways that you can continue forward. Don't let the obstacles prevent you from moving forward.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Well, that is pretty much it. There's one last question that I'm actually going to address that's not for this webinar regarding if this is our commercial driver's license webinar. And it is not, but great plug, because we are having another Career Connections next week on careers in trucking, how you can get a commercial driver's license and begin to career in trucking. So if you are interested in joining our webinar next Wednesday, the 9th at noon, visit our website or give the Women's Resource Center a call and we can get you registered for that webinar. But with that, I want to, thank all of our panelists, all of our participants. This has been an extremely great webinar with tons and tons of valuable information. Holly, do you have any final thoughts or words?
I don't, except for more encouragement. Please reach out. We want to help you. We will guide you to the resources that will best serve you. Take the first step, and we're here to support you on that journey. And a huge shout out, Brent, to you for coordinating this, Gabriella, Simone, Jacqueline, Jasmine for sharing your story. Thank you all.
Yes,
indeed.
Thank you all. Last plug, as soon as I end this little survey will pop up on your screen. Please, please, please provide feedback. And I hope everyone has a fantastic rest of their day. Take care.
Bye, everybody. We hope to hear from you.